And so managed security services started out because customers didn't really know what to do with these new technologies, and they didn't know what to do with the data from the new technologies. But over time, that business morphed into essentially a SIEM. It's basically security incident and event manager in the cloud with an alerting service back to the customer. You say, okay, there's no managed in that. There is no managed inside of a SIEM alerting tool. Security, theoretically, service, not really. Yeah, it's running 24/7, but when we think of service. And so what we had to do was re-educate the market. One of the toughest things out there is building a new niche or building a new brand. And so probably the toughest thing we had was we'd go into a lot of meetings and we'd be like, no, we're not, don't think of the old model, think of the new model. And the easiest analogy I have was when like cloud first came out, when like Azure and AWS and all these services came out. People like me, I had thousands of Dell servers all over the world, right? I had ping, power, and pipe. I had colos. I had an entire infrastructure management team. So the first time I heard cloud, I was like, what am I going to do with all this stuff I've already invested in? I've already got it all. And then over time, what you come to realize is I don't need an infrastructure program. What I need is a person to manage an infrastructure service. So now I have people that manage AWS and Azure. I do not have personally thousands of Dell servers scattered around the world anymore. And I think that same thing's happening on security. But just like cloud got a lot of pushback at the very beginning, I think we got a lot of pushback the first year or so because companies were not used to this idea of saying, hey, we'll give this to Soul Cyber and we'll manage Soul Cyber and we'll do the more interesting and nuanced security, because doing this like consistent, repeatable security probably doesn't make sense. So that whole build the business, build the market, it's not trivial.
Yeah, I think that's a big distinction people need to understand when they're getting into a new business, right? Sometimes if you're going into an established market, there's already existing demand for your product or service and you are just another provider, but calling it different brand name is completely different, right? Where you're just trying to distinguish yourself or show your differentiation based on maybe your name, your price, your maybe some qualification criteria, whatever you might have. Whereas you're a completely different way of thinking the world problem and saying, hey, you've been doing it the wrong way. We have a better solution for it. That is a lot of education that you have to do, especially in the early days, where sometimes sales is a one-to-one sales and education model, where marketing probably need to do a better job of educating at scale.